This feels like a weird one to start, but I am, as you can tell from the title of this, sitting down to talk you through my birth story. It feels so weird being on the other side of it. I know when I was heavily pregnant, I was so over it, and it honestly felt like I was getting to the point that I was like, is there even a baby in there, despite being so pregnant? It just didn't even feel like birth was coming, let alone having a baby. And now at the time of recording this, I am 11 days postpartum. I have an 11-day-old son, which is so wild. And like, even the words of me saying I have a son, wild. But I do need to preface, which I'm sure you'll understand. I may be interrupted with a crying baby. He's currently out chilling with his dad, having a nap. So I thought it'd be a good time to sit down. It feels a little bit rogue, the setup. I'm literally just in my bedroom. I've got my corded Apple headphones to record this, but we're making do, and I want to get straight into it. But before I do, I think something that's a really important preface when it comes to birth stories, I know for myself, especially when I was in my third trimester, I reached this really vulnerable stage of pregnancy. And honestly, throughout my entire pregnancy, I was so intentional around what content I consumed, birth stories, and other people's experiences. Because even when people were sharing their experience from an empowered place, or maybe it wasn't from an empowered place, it really, like, for lack of a better phrase, fucked with my head around the birth that I wanted. So I was really intentional around what I consume. So if you are listening to this, and maybe you're at that phase in pregnancy or whatever it might be, I just recommend, like, maybe come back to this. I am really, really empowered around my birth though, and it didn't go to plan pretty much whatsoever, which you'll find out. So it may also be something as well that you might want to listen to around the sense of that we know birth never goes to plan. And I think I was probably a little bit too type A and too like, nope, it's going to go to plan. Like, I'm just going to manifest it. And like, I'm just like not entertaining any other kind of opportunity, which I think was also important going into birth, feeling really solid in my mindset. So it might also be worthwhile listening to it. So it's completely up to you. But I'm going to get straight into it. This is going to be like so raw and sit down vibes. But I guess I might even start with where I am right now, and then we'll go back to the end of pregnancy. Because something that I have experienced, and again, I'm 11 days postpartum. I'm certainly like, I've been in postpartum and all of the things, but I'm honestly having the time of my life. Yes, sleep is minimal, in comparison. And I know there's that conversation of like pregnancy tired versus newborn tired. And I think because of the adrenaline in having a baby, and just like how your hormones are working, pregnancy tired was so much worse in the sense that like I would have to nap throughout the day. Like I was so tired. I just couldn't see people, where now being on this stage, like I'm like up, I want to put makeup on, like I'm feeling really good. And I think that's come down to a couple of things as well. Having my doula, Tanika, as well, she really prepared me. She was like, Taylor, birth is just like 1 to 3 days dependent. Postpartum is forever beyond that. So even down to like the content that I was consuming, things that I was learning, like yes, I was learning about birth, but I was going into postpartum feeling quite prepared in the sense of even knowing what to expect hormonally, how to prepare even just for our house, our relationship conversations that Isaac and I had, whether it was around, any stresses, whether that be financially, having things in place, having our relationship check-ins locked in, our date night. So like doing all of the things beforehand so that we could come into what is going to be the hardest season, or the most challenging season, but the most rewarding season, with our best foot forward. So that made such an impact. But even just the littlest things of making our bed every single day, making an effort to tidy our house. And we've honestly been doing that pretty well ourselves. Like we've had so much family and friend support when it comes to cooking meals and things like that. But that's pretty much, I don't want to say pretty much it, because that diminishes it massively. But like it's been Isaac and I doing the thing. Isaac has actually gone and worked 2 days, like half days, so far, because he's in the phase of building his business, and like I've managed fine. I've still done some of my own work. So I want this to be permission as well, because I know for myself, I would see so much, especially on TikTok, around postpartum, and it wasn't something that I wanted, in the sense of, and I know rest is really important and I have been resting a lot, but for me, like kind of just feeling like I'm rotting, feeling like I wasn't being able to wash my hair or, get ready for the day or leave the house wasn't something that I wanted for my mental health. And I was speaking to Tanika the other day. We actually went for a walk together, just a short walk around the block, and she was like, how are you like feeling? And I was like, I honestly feel good. And she was like, and I was kind of like hesitant to say it, and she was like, you get to feel good. And I think I'm just taking it day by day. I might not feel good this afternoon, I may not feel good tomorrow, I may have a really shitty month, like, but I think it's so important to, again, it's like the same with pregnancy, where there's so many projections of just wait until, and just actually coming into, well, today I actually feel really good, and today I feel good to go out for a coffee and a small walk with the pram and like feel really confident. Like, we have gone out so much, even just yesterday we had an appointment in Brisbane, and I also had to exchange my ring. Isaac got me a Cartier ring as a push present, but that's a whole other thing. A Cartier for Carter. We had to do that while we're down in Brisbane, and then we're like, fuck it, like while we're down here, like let's go for lunch. We ended up going to SK, which is like one of the bougiest restaurants. Like, it was like a $300 lunch. And I'm there breastfeeding in the restaurant, did a feed in the car, he slept in the car, like changing nappies in the car, changing nappies like in his stroller in a accessible toilet. Like, I'm like, wow, we're just actually getting it done, and I'm so proud of that. So I think even that as well, of just like full permission of like your postpartum experience actually gets to be whatever you want it to be. And if you want to rot on the couch for 6 weeks straight, you get to do that. I think there's just so many rules of like what you can do and what you can't do. And I think the biggest thing is actually just listening to your body. And even for myself, like this morning, I didn't get out of bed until 9 o'clock, I think. And like Carter was just in bed with me. I was side lying feeding. Isaac was bringing me coffee. Like, it actually just gets to be whatever you want it to be. And also everyone's circumstances are so different, whether that's with their partner's work situation, family, friend support, whatever it might be. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm really enjoying postpartum. I had so much fear around becoming a mum and not knowing what to do. Like, I have a younger brother. He was 8. No, sorry. I was 8 when he was born. So like I remember being like hands-on with him, carrying him around like when I was 9ish, changing nappies and all of the things. Mum and dad like, you're gonna be so good, but I'm like, I don't remember that. And it's just been crazy, even with Isaac as well. He'd never held a baby until it was holding his own son, and we're both just like so confident. I think it's a thing to know as well, if you're scared going into this, if you are a first time mum, like how much you just pick things up naturally, and just like how instinctual it is. Like, even the other day we're at the chiropractor with him, he was getting an adjustment, and it was while I was being adjusted, and he was kind of fussing in his pram. I was like, oh, Isaac, can you change his nappy? How did I know to change his nappy? Like, and he needed a nappy change. So it's one of those things as well that like I just had so much fear, like of just like, fuck, am I going to be able to do this? How many times am I going to be able to, oh my God. Can you tell I'm sleep deprived? How many times am I going to be calling my mom? Like, all of the fear. And you just do it. Like, truly, yes, there's moments where you're like, you're crying and I don't know what to do with you. But you get it done. So that's enough yapping from me. I've almost been talking for 9 minutes. Holy cow. But let's go into the birth story. So for me, I was given like 2 due dates basically. So when I first kind of went in, they were like, oh, he's measuring quite small. There was a lot of like fear even around like his heart rate and things like that. And I was like, oh, fantastic. Like, the way the medical system is, but that's a conversation for another day. Anywho, it was like, okay, his due date is the 23rd of May. Went back for the next scan, which is the one where he was meant to be like measuring for his actual like 6 or 7 weeks, and he was kind of measuring further along. They're like, oh, it's kind of looking like the 13th of May. And I'm like, 10 days. There's a huge difference, especially because a baby can come 2 weeks early or 2 weeks late, quote unquote, if we're looking at like the window that they can come. So then having that extra 10 days was just like, I have no idea when this child is going to come. And I remember I had my ultrahuman ring, which was tracking my cycle, and was trying to go back to like my temperatures and stuff like that. And ultrahuman, based on the temps and ChatGPT, was like the 11th of May. I'm like, for fuck's sake, who knows when this baby is going to come at this point. So that was really head doing as I was getting closer with things. And I was experiencing prodromal, I think that's how you pronounce it, labor for 3 weeks, even longer, nearly 4, before I gave birth. yeah. So I remember specifically on the 28th of April, I actually ran a free workshop, and I was getting like consistent like period like cramps coming in like waves. Like I literally was like, Isaac, it's happening, like I'm going into labor. And that would have been like 2 weeks early on my earliest due date, right? So yeah, nothing ended up happening. And then I ended up having, my dog is like crying at the door, if you can hear that, so sorry. I ended up having so many moments of that where I'd wake up in the middle of the night, felt like contractions, they would get consistent, and then they would just disappear. It wasn't every single night, but it was the most frustrating thing, waking up and being like, oh, still pregnant. And even down to like, I would be moving client calls forward because I was like, this baby's going to come early, and then, got quite past that early due date. And then I'm like trying to bring calls forward because I was like trying to time postpartum with maternity leave, and it created like a lot of stress for me. But then long story short, we get to Saturday, the 23rd of May, my due date. And I'm like, I swear to God, like this baby's just not coming at this point. Like I didn't really think that he was going to come on that day for some reason. I don't know. And then we had like a really nice morning, and I could kind of feel at like probably 12 o'clock, I've got a video in my camera roll, which I highly recommend, like videos and photos, because you can timestamp everything. And I was like to Isaac, I was like, these are just like consistent Braxton Hicks. And they were like kind of hurting, but like the tiniest amount. And I had really painful periods before I got pregnant. So I was also just like, are they these actual like pains, but I just have a higher pain tolerance to like uterus pain. And I'm videoing, and it would like contract for like 30 seconds and then kind of disappear, and it'd be like almost like every 10, 15, 20 minutes, but it wasn't anything like worth tracking or anything. And at that point too, I'd had so many moments of it. I was like, let's go like just do something to take my mind off this. So we like went to the driving range. Isaac hit some golf balls. I tried, but too pregnant. And then we went and got like a picnic kind of lunch together, got some ice cream, came home. My dog was being like super like needy with me and whatever, and I was like, I feel like it could happen today, but I don't know. And then I did like a face mask, washed, blow dried my hair, like it's like I knew. And I remember Isaac was on the phone to his cousin at the time who lives in the UK, and I'm like, I think it's like happened, like I think this is consistent now. Like it was still happening. And then anywho, we went to bed, was feeling fine. 8:30ish, I was like, these kind of feel like consistent. I was kind of like timing them roughly, but I was like, Taylor, stop like focusing on it. Like you keep doing this, like stop doing that. It's like fucking with your head. So I went to sleep, and then I woke up at about 10 o'clock, and I was like, these are getting consistent. And I'm like timing them. Like I'd go to sleep between, it would be like maybe 5, 6, 8, 10 minutes. And then they would last for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, sometimes a minute. I'm like, is this labor? And that's the other thing that no one speaks about. Like you don't know what it is. You don't know what to like look for, and people like consistent like contraction pain, period pain, but you're like, I still don't know. Anywho, at about, I think it was 10:47, because I've got it on my camera roll, I felt like a gush, and I was like, did I just pee myself? Because that also happens. But it wasn't like a lot. It was like a little bit of liquid. I was like, weird. Went to the toilet, wiped, and I was like, and it was like, this is so TMI, but like we're going there in the birth side of things, a bit like of a tea color, almost like that, like brownie kind of water. And I was like, interesting. But like it was like a tinge to the water. And then we ran out of toilet paper, classic. So I walked to the other toilet, and then I walk in, and then bang, just like gush on the floor. And I was like, my waters have broken. And I was not expecting to have like my waters break, to be honest. Like I was fully expecting my waters to break in labor. Like obviously I was in early labor at that stage, but I was expecting it to be like right before the baby came, to be honest. And then I was like, Isaac, like yelling out to him. I was like, my waters. And then I called Tanika, my doula, and I was like, I'm a bit concerned about like the color though, because like, is this meconium? It's not clear. And I'm like putting it into ChatGPT, as you do, but I literally just put on like the adult diapers, which you do when your waters break. You get humbled very quickly. And then we were kind of monitoring it, and it was definitely going to like more of a greeny like color. And I was like, this is definitely meconium. So meconium basically just means that the baby has pooed in the womb. And what we kind of looked at was, because I wasn't in active labor yet, this wasn't as concerning as a baby pooing when you're in active labor, because it's usually a sign of distress, where when it is early on, like it was for myself, it usually just means that they're full term. So tying it back into like the due date side of things, I was like, I feel like this is like actually him closer to coming on to 42 weeks based on my earlier due date, if that makes sense. But it was just a coincidence as well that he came on that due date, but also maybe like that's the reverse engineering of like the due dates. Anywho, we're not getting caught up in that. He came when he came. Anywho, then the contractions, because I was timing them, I was still kind of getting like 2 in 10 minutes. And usually when you go into the hospital is about 3 in 10 minutes. So I wasn't too far off it. And I decided, I don't know, I just like intuitively, it didn't feel right to like stay home and wait it out, especially because there was meconium. So I was like, I'm just going to call the hospital and see what they say, because they'll just, you know, tell me to just stay at home, labor for a certain amount of time, whatever. Called them and like they're like, no, just because the colors of the waters are a bit random, just like come in, you're still getting, it's not like your waters are broken, you haven't gotten contractions, like come in and we'll just get you settled. And then I called Tanika and we're kind of like, let's just go, we're just going to labor there, like we're going to get set up, comfortable, cozy, all of the things, we're just going to labor there. So a few things with my birth plan, and it wasn't necessarily like this is the plan, but it was just kind of just like, this is what I'm ideally hoping to achieve. If this thing happens, this is what I'm opting for, and so on and so forth. I really wanted a water birth. There was a part of me that I feel like deep down I knew I wasn't going to have a water birth for some reason. I don't know why. I just felt like it was going to happen on like a hospital bed or on the floor, to be honest. So instantly, because of meconium in the waters, water birth out the window. So that was fun. And I wanted to labor at home as long as possible. That out the window. So that was great. But I was honestly feeling really, really good. I was like, get the TENS machine on me, get that on early. Like I was feeling really good and really excited. Something that I feared going into labor was like, it's like on and it's really painful, but it's like, okay, contraction, breathe through it, you go. So at about like 11:30, I called my mum to come get the dog. So she came and got him. Tanika came here, picked us up. We went to the hospital together. I had like my red light glasses on for like the hospital lighting, had my hoodie on. And I was like feeling really good because I was in such early labor. Got into the birth suite. The birth suites are beautiful. I'm on the Sunshine Coast. The Sunshine Coast University Hospital here is honestly incredible. The staff, incredible, cannot fault them. So we get in, had the midwife, for like, again, because I didn't have a consistent midwife, I did have my doula, Tanika, which was consistent throughout the entire pregnancy. So if you are going through the public system, I'd recommend having someone consistent throughout your entire pregnancy and birth and postpartum as well, especially even just like having someone there outside of Isaac. So when there was stressful situations, Isaac could just be there to support me, and then Tanika could support him as well. Anywho, we get in and I'm like, okay, it's midnight. This baby's going to be here at 6:40. Don't know why I had 6:40 in my head. And honestly, from then until about just before 6 a.m., things were feeling really, really good. I was like, classic me, eating my own words. I was saying to Tanika, I was like, I can see how people would like, you know, stress out and all of the things, but you just have to like welcome the contraction, breathe through it, because it's so true. Like I was breathing through them really, really well, and feeling really good. Keep in mind though, I hadn't eaten since like 3 p.m. the day before. So as it started to roll around to the morning, like I'm starting to get a bit depleted because I was on my feet the whole thing. I didn't want to be sat, and I wanted to like drop the baby down. I wanted to progress the labor. Then at about 7:30, I don't know. Oh, that's what happened. I didn't want to have many cervical checks, and they didn't cervical check me when I first got in. And I also didn't have the CTG monitoring. I opted for the Doppler for intermittent monitoring because I just didn't want to be bound by things on me. And then at that stage, it was like, okay, I've been here for 7 hours. They're like, do you want a cervical check? And I was like, I actually do want to see just like how far along I am. 4 centimeters. 4 centimeters. That fucked with my head. And that was the exact reason as to why I didn't want to get a cervical check, was for it to fuck with like my flow. And it actually fucked with my flow. I was like, okay, cool. I have so long to go, and I've been doing this for 7 hours already, and I'm fucking tired already. Great. And I had in my head I was going to have like a fast labor. So joke's on me. I think it would have been different though if I was laboring at home. To be fair, I think I would have progressed faster, all of the things. Anywho, I am like looking at Isaac, like literally bawling my eyes out at this point. I'm like, I think I just need the epidural, to be honest. Like the pain just like went from 0 to hero. And I'm thinking too at this point, this might have even been before I got the cervical check, I'm like, this must be transition. Jokes on me, literally jokes on me. Because I'm like, I'm doubting myself. Like all the things you hear about transition is when you're like, I can't do this anymore. And then I got the cervical check and I was 4 centimeters. I was like, oh, we're not in transition. We're not in transition. So that's fantastic. But Isaac and Tanika both knew that I didn't really want the epidural. And they were like, no. Let's try something. Like, let's get you in the shower. And I was like, fuck my life. Got in the shower. I think I was in there for about an hour and a half. Felt like heaven. I had just had like the birth ball and I was just leaning on that. And there was 2 shower heads and I was just being hosed down, and it really helped with the pain management. Obviously took the TENS machine off. I didn't really like the TENS machine at the start, to be honest. I think I put it on after this and it was feeling good because it kind of progressed to like more of a back labor, but it was a lot just in the front. So yeah, got in the shower about an hour and a half, kept just like laboring all of these different positions, had like bean bags, like was on the floor, was hanging off the bed at one stage. Like it's so weird because it went so fast but so slow at the same time. Like I swear I just looked at the clock and another 30 minutes had kind of passed. And then I think at this point it was maybe closer to midday. I wish I'm recording on my phone right now. I wish I could like actually have the things, but I have looked at the timestamps quite often. It was probably around about midday at this stage. So it'd been another quite a few hours. Got another check and I was 7 centimeters and I was like, And at this point I was like, I need the fucking epidural. I was like, no, I'm done. Like I'm actually so fucking done. Yeah, like no. And again, Isaac and Tanika were like, you don't want to do that. Let's just get you in the shower again. And I was like, fuck off. And I remember Tanika kept trying to get me on the birth stool, which kind of just like, I would describe it like an adult potty is like the shape of it, because like, I don't know if you've heard of the dilation station, which is like kind of facing backwards on the toilet because it really drops the baby. I was like, I'm not doing it. Like anytime I had to go to the toilet to pee, agony, which now looking back on it, the agony is the baby dropping. Would have progressed the labor. Anywho, I was like, no. Tanika was like, God, I met like the most stubborn version of you. And I was like, yeah. And I would just like cry to Isaac. Like I'd just be like, no, to Tanika. And then I'd just like cry to Isaac, like hoping that like I'd give him full puppy dog eyes, be like, please, like just give me the epidural. And they're like, no. So got in the shower again. And at this point I felt like I was in a psychotic state. And when I was in it, like I didn't feel like this, but I was just so dialed. Like when people say you go into like a labor land, like I was just locked in. And when I say psychotic state, like someone watching from the outside in would be like, what the fuck is happening over here? I am in the shower, to paint you a picture. Again, birth ball in the corner. My head is just like in the corner of this shower. Isaac was literally like, I feel like I'm watering my girlfriend. He's sat on a chair, just like hosing me down with this shower head, this warm shower head. And I'm in there just like through every contraction. And I was like, I don't know why. I read this book, Birth Skills by Juju someone. If you look it up on Kindle, you'll find it. Really good book. Highly recommend, because there was a lot of techniques that I did use in labor for the pain management. One of the things I remember her saying was like someone tapping, and I didn't consciously do this in the labor of like, what skill am I going to pull on? But I was just tapping on the wall, and I would just tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was my breath in, and my breath out was like the breath that I could manage. And I tap on the wall and I'm squeezing a spiky ball with the other hand. And I would just imagine this like diagram of like a wave that went up and then back down, and that kind of peak of like as you are probably like 30% in to like almost like the 50% was like the hardest part. So I just knew as I got to that point, I just imagined, okay, now we're dropping down in the roller coaster. And I would just envision the weirdest shit. Like I remember just like every contraction I'd just take my mind somewhere else. So I'd be like, this is someone I want to pitch to on my podcast. Like weirdest shit. Like I was in a state. And that's what Tanika said. She's like, I would literally come in and you're just like tapping on this wall like you're in a psych ward. But I was there for almost 2 hours, I think. And I remember Tanika and Isaac just got to a point where they could like just attach the shower heads and they were just rinsing on me. I didn't even realize though that they'd like left me in there, but it would have been like this hot, steamy room. I think Isaac was in there with a jumper. Tanika was like, Isaac, you need to go get food. Like this was the benefit as well of having her, where she was like, have you had water? He was like, no. And at this point again, we've been in for, 12 hours. Yeah, like 1ish PM. And then I remember like different midwives kind of coming in, then putting the Doppler on me. So that was like the baby's to monitor the baby's heart rate. And I didn't really know what was kind of happening at this point, but I remember having the shower, getting dry. I think I got in the bed and I'm pretty sure I tried the gas because I was like, I'm so done. And I would insert the video, but I'm not going to because this video does not need to see the light of day. But I have the gas at the hospital. And I knew I wouldn't want gas. Tanika actually asked for air, but then she gave me like the air and gas, which I knew the gas would make me feel sick because it always has when I've gone to like the dentist and things like that. Anywho, I don't give a fuck. I'm like anything to try and help this pain. And I am smoking it like what are those things? I don't even know what those things are. A shisha bar? I don't even know. But I'm just like blowing it away. Like, what the fuck? Your hair is ratchet. So ratchet because I've just like been in the shower and I have really curly hair. I've like got this towel over me. Like, I'm just naked in this birth room. Like, people that are like, pack a bikini for the birth pool. No, you don't give a fuck. Like, truly, you're going to be seen in some states. And then next minute, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be sick. Like, I'm just like so out of it at this point. And I'd been drinking electrolytes that were like a pink color. I'm vomiting up this red liquid just constantly. And I was like, the gas is not happening. And again, I'm like, I need the fucking epidural. Then next minute, I'm so out of it at this point, so I don't really know the timelines of things. And Tanika might even be listening to this and be like, you got that wrong, but this is just how I'm recalling in my head. I think this was about like 3 p.m. I want to say closer to 3 p.m. I know there were some things with the heart rate with Bub, but I was completely out of it. Like, Tanika knew, like, she's relayed this back to me and was like, no, they were watching it. She's like, I even heard it on the Doppler. Like, there were some dips in his heart rate. So I remember my midwife got someone, like the doctor, to kind of just like check it because they've got all of the monitors out there. Next minute, the doctor kind of comes in, introduces herself. Again, I'm disoriented at this point. And then it was just like I blinked and there was like at least 8 people. There could have been like closer to 12 in the birth room. And keep in mind too, there was only ever one, like my midwife at the time. And this was my second midwife because the shifts changed over. She was incredible. And Tanika and Isaac that were in the room. So next minute I'm like, holy shit. And there's people like, they're trying to explain to me like his heart rate, this, that, and the other. And I knew because I'd done a lot of birth prep around the fear they can do around the heart rate. That's how that typically emergency C-sections happen. But if they're monitoring his heart rate just when there's a contraction, like that's not an accurate reading. So they were putting the CTG monitors on me. I was like, yep, if that's what you need to do. And they're like, Taylor, we're really, really concerned. Next minute, I just kind of remember her being like, emergency, like a cesarean. And I was like, nah. And then I swear it was like maybe another 10 minutes of them all kind of fucking around in there talking about things and monitoring his heart rate and stuff like that. And they're like, Taylor, we need to get you to theatre. We need an emergency C-section. Like, this is bad. I don't think they said this is bad, but like that was the energy of it. I was like, what? And again, this is why I'm so, so glad that I had someone external, like having Tanika. I could look at her and be like, is this, like, am I trusting this right now? Because I know that can happen in like a hospital environment. And she was like, no, like I've heard it for myself. Like, I think this is what needs to happen for the safety of you and Bub and the meconium and, you know, all of the things. I was like, okay. Next minute, I'm being jabbed with all of the things. So I'm getting a cannula in my hand, which she fucked up so hard. I don't even know who it was. And I just like remember looking down and my hand is just pissing out blood. And I'm like, wow, I must be in some significant pain considering this like doesn't even hurt. And I hate needles. Like I faint doing a fucking blood test. So there's that. Getting jabbed with something in my leg because that was slowing down the contractions to get me to theatre. Isaac's being scrubbed up. They're taking all my jewelry off. They're like, we need to take these bangles off. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm so swollen from pregnancy. The bangles can't come off. So I'm taking out my earrings. I look like a sack of shit. God bless my soul. Tanika got like a video as we're being wheeled out. And we're being wheeled out to theatre. And I'm just thinking like, I didn't think I'd get emotional about this. Like, what the fuck? Like, I had done so much work for this to not happen, and now I'm just being wheeled out. But it was weird how, like, calm I was in the moment of it. I think because I had Isaac there, I felt really safe. I think I just was like, this is just what needs to happen. And I'm being wheeled out, but it felt still so defeating that I had done so much prep And I just had in my head I was just going to have this beautiful labor experience, and it was going to be unmedicated, and it was going to be like a faster labor, and it was going to feel so good. Like I'd invested so much in pelvic floor physio, chiro, meditations, like doing so much work, research, reading the books, listening to the podcast, feeling so empowered around birth. And I was like, oh my God, this is like literally the worst case scenario, like in my eyes, having an emergency C-section. And I was like, cool. But again, I feel like at that point I was just so like disassociated, but just calm about it. Anywho, we get wheeled into theatre, and we're in there for a few minutes. They're like getting me like rejigged with all of the things attached to all of these monitors, and I'm just like in there. There's probably 20 staff in this room, and I'm just like, what the fuck? They're explaining like my circumstance, all of the things. Next minute, the initial doctor that told me I needed the emergency C-section was like, Taylor, Bub's heart rate has stabled. We know that you really wanted a vaginal birth. We're dropping it down to a category 2. So like it won't be as an intense of an operation, but we know you wanted a vaginal birth. What do you want to do? And I'm kind of like, well, what are my options? And I know from my friend Riley that gave birth a month before me, or a bit longer, when she had the epidural, she said it took from the moment that she was like, no, fuck this, like I actually cannot do this anymore. It took like an hour to get to her. And I'm thinking, fuck, like I can't keep going like this. Like I have nothing left in the tank to give if I go for a vaginal delivery. Like I have nothing. I'm so depleted. It's now 3 p.m. or like 4 p.m. at this point. And I remember looking around and going, there's 4 anaesthetists in here that were going to be my anaesthetists for the cesarean. I wonder if I can get an epidural while I'm here, like get it literally now, and try for a vaginal delivery. And I cannot fault the hospital staff at all. The way that they were so respectful, and I'm so glad that I did have that birth plan, because that's how they knew that I wanted a vaginal delivery. I truly believe if I didn't have that in my birth plan, of like what I wanted, my preferences and things like that, because I still said if I had an emergency C-section, these are the things that I wanted to have: skin to skin, delayed cord clamping, all of the things. I truly believe because I still had that, and then like they knew that I wanted a vaginal delivery, that's where they gave me that option. They were like, we'll leave you and Isaac to make a decision for a couple of minutes. We're going to leave the room. There's no rush. Bub's all good. Let us know. All like 20 staff leave the room, and I'm looking at Isaac, and I was at this point that I was like, I was so done with, sorry, I feel like I jumped ahead with like the anaesthetist thing. Anywho, I was looking at Isaac and I was like, fuck, do we just do it? Like, let's just get our baby in our arms. I was so over it by this point. And I didn't want to like risk trying for a vaginal delivery and then something happening again and all of the things. But then I literally, this probably sounds selfish, but I literally was just like, oh my God, the recovery. Like, I'm not going to be able to walk. I can't drive for like 6 weeks. I'm going to have this fucked scar. Call me vain. I was like, fuck, I don't want that either. And that was where my thought process went. I was like, I wonder if I could just get the epidural. And I remember crying to Isaac. Like, I was obviously so emotional at this point. I was like, I wish you just listened to me at the start. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I wish I did too. But like, in hindsight, if I got the epidural at like 7:30 when I was first asking for it, I would have been disappointed with my birth experience. Anywho, decided then in that conversation, baby is crying. He'll need a nappy change and then he'll be ready for me. I feel like this is going to be perfect timing for the duration. Anywho, I need to get this sped up. Now he's not crying. The way that I just like my ears ping now. Anywho, I was like, all right, that's the plan. Epidural, yada, yada. They come in. I was like, could I get an epidural? Are you happy for me to go back to the birth suite and try for a vaginal birth? And they were like, yeah, we're happy to do that. So next minute, I'm getting epiduraled, which I really had to remove the image of the epidural fucking needle. But again, at this point, I didn't give a fuck. The contractions were worse. Keep in mind too, while I'm in theatre, you're still having contractions and they're fucking painful. So I'm like in this bed, which is the worst position to be dealing with a contraction. Like, it's fucked. And then you got to stay really still to get the epidural. So it's like, okay, there's no contraction, go. Anywho. So Isaac was like, I can't even watch this needle at the moment. I'm holding on to this random doctor like guy. I get the epidural, get wheeled back up to birth suite, and Tanika's still there. I think it had been 45 minutes by this point because the doctors had told her like she's going to have the baby within like 30 to 40 minutes. She'll be back here with the baby. So she's like, cool, I'm going to wait. I come back and she's like, where's the baby? Isaac's like, no baby. But she's thinking that something's happened to the baby. And I'm like, no, like I'm still pregnant. I got the epidural. I'm going to try for a vaginal birth. And she was like, wait, what the fuck? Like I've just been wheeled out for this emergency and now I'm coming back still pregnant. Anywho, they were like, we're going to give you 4 hours, see how dilated you get. And if you're not dilated enough, if things aren't progressing, we're going to have to go back to theatre. And I was like, fabulous. So I think it was probably 4 p.m. by this point. I don't even know. Maybe it was 6 hours. I don't know. Anywho, it was 10 p.m. They came and checked me. Again, God, I had been rummaged through like a fucking handbag at this point. Like the amount of cervical checks and the amount of people's hands that were like in there. Anywho, had the epidural, couldn't fucking feel it at this point. You can still feel pressure, but whatever. I think they came and checked at 10 p.m. and she was like, you are like so close. Like there's just still a little bit we want, and then we'll start pushing. It was actually really nice though at this point though, because there was quite a few hours where Isaac could sleep, I could sleep. Tanika went home to her family. I think she had a nap. She came back at maybe 11ish because I think that's when they thought we're going to start pushing. But they were like, it kind of just got delayed and it wasn't until midnight that I started pushing. And it's so weird because you don't have this like urge to push. It's just like, okay, contraction and push, but you can't feel anything. So it's like they're telling you to like focus on like as if you were like pooing or something. It was like pressure down in your bum, like push to your bum. I'm like, okay. So I'm like trying all these different positions. Next minute, like 30 minutes passes. And I'm like, meh, this is weird. Has he moved? Not really. Keep pushing. Next minute, 2 hours pass. And they're like, all these doctors come in again. Fabulous. Taylor, if the baby's not here soon, we're going to have to do an emergency C-section. Swear to God, if these fuckers say emergency C-section one more time. Anywho, I keep pushing and I'm like, I am in agony because the epidural had like started to like wear off and they turn it down for the pushing phase. I'm like, I need some, like give me some. And I'm up on the bed at this stage, like pushing that way because that would help gravity for pushing. Do the epidural instantly, can't move my back, like agony in my back. And my mum, when she had the epidural with me, got a spinal infection and had to go back to hospital for a week with a spinal infection, had to get a lumbar puncture. So I'm already fearing an epidural at this point. And I'm like, I can't move. And I'm screaming, like, I can't fucking move. Like, can someone take me seriously? It felt like everyone was just like, whatever. And I'm like looking at Isaac, I'm like, I can't fucking move. And they're like, we just got to get you on your back. And I'm like, are these fuckers for real? Anywho, end up getting my back. Things were fine. I think it was just the position, like the epidural's probably moved in my spine at this point. Anywho, we get there. And it had been another 30 minutes. And they're like, we really want to do like assisted delivery. Again, so we don't have to take you to theatre. In my birth plan, I opted for a vacuum delivery versus like forceps. So like we can do vacuum, which is basically just a suction cup to their head, which they pull with a lot of force. Anywho, they put the vacuum cup on. Isaac was saying that it was actually like a girl pulling, which I'm pretty sure she was a student, even though I had no students bold in my birth plan. But at this point, I don't even know. Who knows? And then Isaac was saying that the guy was like, no, you're not pulling hard enough. Get out the way. Pushes her out the way and like pulls him out. It was like sweet relief though. It was like 5 or 6 pushes from the point that they put the vacuum on, and the way it felt like this octopus coming out of me. And it was so annoying too, because at this stage, they're like, you're so close. I'm like, you've been saying I'm so close for like an hour, guys. Like, I'm fucking over this. So I didn't really believe them. They're like, he's just here. And I'm like, again, you said that? Anywho, I could feel his head coming out. I was just like, oh my God, like, what is that? And then I could feel his arms coming out. They were trying to get me to feel his head, and I was like, nah, I don't want to. I'm not fucking touching his head. Like, it's freaking me out. Like, I'm not reaching down and feeling that. Like, just like, let me get him out, push him out. And then I remember, it's the emotional part again. I remember the doctor saying to me, Taylor, I want you to open your eyes. You're going to meet your baby. And at this point, it had been 28 hours since we were at home and my waters had broken. There was those consistent contractions, like 28 hours. And I was so tired. And it was like opening my eyes and you get your baby past you, no feeling can beat it. And it was at that point as well, I was so glad that I did a vaginal delivery and I just like pushed through and I got to meet my baby, which is being brought to me right now because he wants the boob. But that is the story. That felt so weird being full like interrupted mid-cry, but that's the vibe, isn't it, darling? But yeah, then he was on my chest. The umbilical cord was really short as well, so he was kind of like more on my belly, I would say. What's it called? We did the delayed cord clamping. Isaac cut the cord, which was so cool. And then we had like the 3 hours of skin to skin that I wanted. Isaac then had skin to skin with him. I had a shower, which was like probably the best shower I think I'll ever have in my life. It felt so good, just like, yeah, having that shower, and then you put on an adult diaper, which is so fun. And then it was just us, a little family. We stayed in hospital because that was at 2:40. He came on the 25th of May. The grunting, it's ridiculous. And yeah, stayed, what was that Monday night, and then we went home the Tuesday. We stayed in the maternity suite. Men's hungry. Getting home, you're just like, hey, so like, do we give you a tour of our house? Like, the most random experience ever. But now we're 11 days postpartum. I have my little best friend. He has so much hair, and I couldn't be more in love. And Rocky, our little cavoodle, is definitely adjusting. I'm just looking at him on the bed. He just looks so sad that the attention isn't on him anymore. But other than that, he's healthy. He is well. I got a 2nd degree tear, which apparently it's very impressive to only tear with a vacuum delivery. It's pretty common to episiotomy, and I did not want an episiotomy. Like, do not cut my fucking vagina. You know what I mean? So very happy with that. But like I was saying at the start, like, I feel, despite the fact that it literally did not go to plan, I feel so empowered about the entire experience. It was the best experience of my life, like meeting the strongest version of myself, the like way that Isaac supported me, and like our relationship in that, like, you just, it's something you can't explain until you've been through it. And yeah, we're just so much more solid and just feel like we're honestly killing it and having the time of our life. And again, I know I'm 11 days in, but this is like my honest, how I'm actually feeling, and full permission to know that it gets to be this bloody good, and you get to have a birth that might not go to plan, but it gets to be really empowering, and you get to feel really fucking good about it. And yeah, we're out here doing it. But I'm going to feed this hungry little man, and then he's got his 3rd chiro appointment. Chiro has been so good for him. He's been sleeping so well. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I could definitely do a part 2 if you have specific questions, or even like postpartum updates, like a month postpartum I could definitely do. Let a girl know. But I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for listening. It's been a 45-minute yap. Love you so much, and I will catch you in the next video/episode.